Hi, this is Evelyn, and welcome to the LifeHugger. In this episode, I'm going to teach you all about how to host your own solo dance party. Nah, we're going to be talking about mindfulness. But before we get there, I'll tell you a little bit about what I was up to last night. So last night, as I stepped out of the shower, I had music playing on my Spotify, as I usually do. But this time, I was really feeling it. I stepped out and I was like shaking my shoulders, I was tapping my feet, and before I knew it, I was having a full-on solo dance party in my bedroom. Like, I was singing really loudly and I was like flailing my arms because I'm not a dancer. But then I realized that in those 2 to 3 minutes while I was having my solo dance party, I was completely present. Like, I was all here, just thinking about where my limbs were going and the lyrics that I'm singing to, but I wasn't thinking about anything else at all. And I think that's quite rare, especially when I'm alone, to feel so present. I think when you're with friends, when you're with company, it's easier because you get caught up in the conversations that you're having or whatever. But when I'm alone, I find that I'm either scrolling through Instagram mindlessly, just like liking people's photos, or I'm here, but my mind is like drifting off, thinking about the conversation that I had with that other person yesterday, or I'm like, I wonder what I should order for dinner. Should I go out or should I, order Deliveroo, whatever. But it's rare even for like 1 or 2 minutes to just be fully here. And it feels so wonderful when I do experience that. And this reminds me of this one day years ago, back when I was still living in LA, and I was at the Grove. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Grove is just this outdoor shopping mall with a grass patch in the middle. Sometimes they'll have a stage and have performances. And so that day they had a band playing. And I noticed that almost all of the kids were up on their feet, like twirling and swaying and running around this grass patch dancing. Like kids, toddlers up to like 5-6-year-olds, they were just all up and like fully engaged with the song, with the music. In contrast, you see the adults and they're just sitting there, like they're politely like bobbing their head or like they're clapping along to the music, clapping at the end of every song, but they stayed put. And I guess that's just one of the downsides of growing up, right? You become so aware of what other people might think, or not necessarily what other people might think, but like what you think other people are thinking. So you're like, oh, well, I don't want to get up and dance. Like no other adults are doing that. I don't want to look stupid. Or you're like, ooh, those people are looking at me like I think they're judging me, even though they're probably not. Or more than that, I think adults have this very strange ability to be somewhere physically, but then their mind is somewhere else. As I was saying earlier, like I think for adults, like you can be sitting in this grass patch, seeing the band in front of you, hearing music, but then your mind is thinking about like next week's meeting, or you're like worried about all of the emails that you haven't cleared out of your inbox, right? Whereas for kids, like when you see kids play pretend, like they're like, oh, I'm the doctor, you're the patient. They're not really playing pretend. Like they believe that that's what they are. And as we grow up, I think we kind of forget how to just be here right now. And that's all that that's all that mindfulness is about, right? It's just it's not an abstract concept that can only be achieved through meditation or yoga, though those are very powerful practices, but it's just the ability, or I guess the practice of intentionally focusing on the present moment, being aware of what's happening, what you're doing, and the space that you're moving through, and not having your mind be like worried about the past or like anticipating the future the way that you are right now, just being here, watching this video and listening to my voice, right? So I think you should give it a try. If you have like 1 minute or 3 minutes to spare, just try a solo dance party. It helps when you sing really loudly because it keeps your mind focused. But anyway, I mean, I think that's just how I've experienced mindfulness today. And sometimes I experience being fully present when I'm like listening to music, singing along as I'm walking home from the bus, or when I'm doing pottery. I just went to pottery this morning. But when I'm doing wheel throwing, like you have to be really focused and like be all here, because one little flick could send the whole ball of clay like flying off your wheel. But that's how I find mindfulness in my daily lives. And I think for you, it could be something completely different. Like it could be cooking, or I just watched the Marie Kondo tidying show. What is it called again? Like The Art of Tidying or something on Netflix, where she talks about how with every piece of clothing, you have to like give it your love. And then before you fold it, you have to be like, oh, thank you for clothing my body. And then you fold it. And so I think when you're doing things like that, you do have to be present to like send those positive vibes to your article of clothing. Or for you, it could be, I think, spending time with someone that you love, someone that you enjoy. I think that naturally just brings you to the present moment. It could be anything, really, that takes your mind off of everything else and brings you to what you're doing right now, just right here. And so I think it's great just to recognize those moments when you do have them, so that you can take note of what being present feels like. And you can remind yourself of what it's like to be a 5-year-old running around in the grass patch listening to good music. When I read The Power of Now, this was a while ago as well. But I remember some of the points that Eckhart Tolle makes is that life is made up of a series of nows. And when I read that, I was like mind blown. I was like, wow, that is so true. It's now, and then you have now, and now, and now. And every time I've said now, every time you've heard now, it's a different now. It's a different moment. And when we feel pain, a lot of times, or like when we're feeling anxious or like negative emotions, a lot of times it's because our mind is dealing with the past, like remembering an unpleasant moment, or you are anxious about the future, something that sometimes we can't even do anything about right now, right? Like it's something happening 2 weeks from now. We just have to deal with it 2 weeks from now. But then right now you're already worried about it. And there's no need to do that, because when you are using now to think about the later now, you're kind of wasting the current now. And that was a lot of nows. But I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, so of course, solo dance parties or folding clothes, no matter how much love you're giving that piece of clothing, that's not the way to achieving lasting mindfulness, right? Like you can't dance your way to enlightenment, at least not the last time I checked. But there are, of course, as you already know, a ton of resources out there if you want to learn more about mindfulness. One that I have really enjoyed recently is this app called Headspace. They have really cute animations with like bubbly, squishy characters. That's probably the main reason why I like it. But I think it's also a wonderful introduction to meditation. And I am, of course, not a expert or anything close to being an expert on the topic of mindfulness or meditation, but I experienced a good 2-3 minutes of it last night. And I just wanted to share, I guess, how wonderful it is to savor those moments when you do experience it. So just begin to notice what feeling present feels like, so that I think after you do this for quite some time, in the future, maybe when you realize that your mind gets all jumbled up, that you can remind yourself to come back to this present moment, have your mind be where your body is. And that's the idea with mindfulness, is that with repetition, this intentionally created state of being present, that it can become an enduring trait where you can remind yourself like, hey, I am here right now. come back here now. Or when you're feeling particularly stressed out, maybe you want to try out my solo dance party method, or whatever works for you. Anyway, thank you for spending all these nows with me today, and I hope to see you soon.